Hey friends, it's your girl Ness of Glamour by Ness, and welcome to my corner here on YouTube where beauty meets reality. So let's dive right on in and let's glow together, y'all. All right, today's episode, episode is soul responses versus ego responses. And you know how I like to do. Let's kick it off with an affirmation. Our affirmation for this live is I respond from my soul, not fear. I am very hot. I just got really hot all of a sudden. But our affirmation is I respond from my soul, not from fear. How can you tell and know the difference? Well, to state it plainly, when we operate from our ego is essentially there to protect us. And kind of dialing it back to the 5 second rule book by Mel Robbins, we essentially have 5 seconds to think, and your brain is essentially an ego is essentially there to protect you from harm, from danger, or I should say, from an apparent harm or an apparent danger, or imminent harm and an imminent danger. And sometimes those dangers are essentially perceived. So, what do I mean by that? Sometimes it's just not real. And it could be delusion, right? And so we tend to just human nature because our ego is there to protect us. We tend to do the very thing that um, will give us the optimal result, right? We'll do things that will play it safe, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so what does that look like? It shows up in small little ways. We set an intention that we're going to go to the gym 3 times a week. Alarm goes off, and alarm goes off at 2:45 in the morning. You want to make it to the gym by 3:30, right? It gives you enough time to get dressed, brush your teeth, put in travel time. However, it's dark outside, 2:45 in the morning, right? But you set this objective, you set this goal, and because it's dark outside and because it's in the wee hours in the morning, you're thinking you may think that there's danger, right? It could be someone out there that you don't know, and it could very well be. I mean, two foot. I mean, 2:45 in the morning. Who's outside? Like, people do weird shit. However, dang, was I supposed to curse? um, in those 5 seconds that alarm goes off, you literally think, dang, it's dark outside. I really don't want to go. And therefore, your ego, your innate reaction is to go back to bed because there's a perceived imminent danger that could be lurking outside, and we don't want to find out what that is. Hence, it then ripples into a cascading effect of you not going to the gym, and that leads to you breaking your word to yourself, your promise to yourself, and you then therefore break trust with yourself. But it's all because your ego wanted to protect you from the imminent danger that technically isn't real. So I gave that example because I live this example, right? You know, I like to go to the gym super duper early in the morning. And I sometimes do not get out of bed because I'm like, oh my gosh, what if there is someone out there? And there have been instances, days where, the gym is not even like within the realm of anything that has to do with anything. But I found homeless people out there because I have to walk my sister's dog early in the morning. Now, not 2:45 in the morning, but I do walk him early in the morning. With this time change, it's still dark outside. But because my ego is trying to protect me, I lean into that versus not. Each time that I have woken up and actually made it to the gym by myself at 3 in the morning, at 3:30 in the morning, at 3:45 in the morning, there's nobody out there. There's nobody out there. And I make it to the gym safely and I make it back home safely. So in essence, when we're reacting from our ego, a lot of the times you kind of have to tell home girl or home boy or them or they, whatever the pronouns are today, to chill. You're it's serving its purpose by getting you to think in that manner, but sometimes you have to kind of push past that. You have to push past the fear of something's going to happen to me, because it's essentially manifesting. Okay, that is essentially manifesting, and I have to tell myself I am safe, I am sound, nothing is going to happen to me. I am going to go to the gym and I'm going to return home safely. But it's an active thing that you have to do. But sometimes it's not even, foregoing the gym or anything like that. Your ego can show up as impatience. Your ego can show up as defensiveness, because essentially you're trying to protect yourself. You're trying to get to a state of homeostasis where you feel safe. But sometimes your ego could be your enemy. Just saying. Don't shoot the messenger. Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know, because I've spent several years literally watching others live out my dream. And I've decided I am going to live out my dream. I'm not going to sit on the sidelines anymore. And my ego was protecting me from other people's opinions and the what ifs, and what if I embarrass myself? What if I fail? All of these things that are perceived, they haven't happened. I mean, I've been posting online sporadically, but I haven't had anyone embarrass me. If anything, I get the exact opposite reaction. I get applauded, I get praised, I get inspired, I get encouraged. I'm inspiring others. And I'm not even like, I'm nowhere near where I want to be. So we tend to think, and I'm speaking specifically about me, but the worst case scenario, like always, it's almost like the default. And to change that, my God, y'all, it's work. So in my past lives, if you haven't watched them, go back and watch them. I talk about, or I mention bad habits. So I'm going to mirror what I've said in my past lives in how it is relevant to having a soul response versus having an ego response. And how do you break a bad habit? You create a new one. You create a new one. And so, how do I stop responding from an ego centered space to a soul centered space? And I talked about this yesterday, which is crazy because how I'm linking them together. But from your feminine energy, even for men too. And men are masculine beings, but they can still operate in their feminine energy by allowing things to happen. You just simply be, right? You just allow things to happen versus, you know, protecting yourself from a perceived danger. So in order to negate an ego response, you're responding from your soul, and or you're reacting from a soul stance versus an ego stance, and that comes versus the frustration, the pettiness, the impatience, into a state of softness, of clarity, of calm, of peace, because that's essentially, right, what will allow you to cultivate a space where your manifestations can come in. All right. So that's 2 talking points. You know, y'all, I have 4 talking points and I'm not trying to be on here all night. Right. And so some real life examples. Most recently went to the doctor's office, and I think I spoke about this yesterday, but it's still so relevant. Like, I most recently I went to a doctor's office, and the experience was deplorable, and it was not a good experience. Hindsight, I feel I should have gotten up and left. I double booked myself, not on purpose, but I ended up double booking myself, and I had an appointment with my neurologist, and I am also shopping around for an internist. And this said doctor was that internist. And so obviously my neuro, well, y'all don't know this, but my neuro follow up appointment, essentially, it was like a 15-minute appointment, right? Um, and simultaneously, and I knew it was going to happen too. I mean, the stars aligned because I knew it was just going to happen. And once come where I was physically with the internist, I was at a physical location, and with the neurologist, it was virtual. But I knew with the neurologist, it was going to be a very quick conversation based on, an exam that I had to get done. And so, as the internist physician is coming in, my neuro doctor is coming online, and I'm like, so I quickly apologized to the internist. I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry. I double booked myself, but I do need time to speak to my neurologist. Can you give me a few minutes? And of course, she was like, well, I guess I don't have a choice. And the neurologist heard that, and he goes, oh my God, like, that was very passive aggressive. And I just laughed it off, but I was seething. And even though, because I am shopping around for a internist, like, so ended up finding, concluded the call with the neurologist, ended up calling the physician back, and just proceeded with the appointment. But from the moment she got back, like, you know, she essentially had written me off. Rude, wouldn't listen to me, wouldn't anything. And it wasn't until much later into the appointment, when I'm trying to explain and connect the dots for her ass, where I'm explaining to her, I'm like, hey, like, I'm sick, I'm this, I'm that. There was a request that I made. She's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. Like, well, it just sounds like you have this. And I'm like, no, I know what this is. It's not what I have. I mean, just complete and utter disgrace, disrespectful. This was not only was she a woman, she was a Black woman on top of that. And we have the same, we share the same culture. Y'all, I kid you not, I wanted to light that beat up, okay? Simply because, how dare you treat me like that? I didn't feel seen. I didn't feel heard. She was very dismissive. She was very passive aggressive. And I just felt like I wasted my time. And hindsight, looking back, obviously, I wanted to blow the place up. And following my interaction with her, I had to check out. And this is kind of like where I'm landing the story. I had to check out. She told me that, oh, they'll call you up um, to check you out. And she left. Um, there was 3 stalls. Uh, 2 of the stalls had patients there, along with, I guess, the I don't know what you call them, like receptionists that check you out. And then the third stall was empty. And so this gentleman, after, I want to say, less than 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes later, a gentleman is on the phone. He's walking up, and essentially, I guess the lady in the second stall, that patient that was there had left, And she just called them to sit down. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like, hold on. Hold on. So I sat there and I'm like, surely she knows I'm sitting here. And obviously, with the three stalls, you can't really see who's sitting there, which, however, whoever devised that, poor job. But in like visually, poor job. But in essence, I was like, I could have sat there and I'm like, absolutely not. I'm not just sitting here and just waiting for her to check him out. And I was here first. So I got up and I'm like, excuse me. I was told that I was going to be called. Oh my God. That's what, the reception starts like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, are you, are you really? Anyway, um, and so she was, and I'm like, well, I mean, the doc, listen, that lady, the smoke that I couldn't give the doctor, baby, I was ready to lay it all out on her ass. Whew. She didn't know she didn't know. She didn't know what was coming to her. And so in those 5 seconds, and even though I didn't do the whole Mel Robbins 5 4 3 2 1, but I literally had a split second to either lay it on her or decide not to. And that for me is the epitome of having a soul response versus an ego response, because my ego was ready to defend and protect because I already felt violated. And now here you are compounding your disrespect on top of that. Oh, baby, anybody was going to have, anybody can get it at that point. But I didn't. I did not. I was so emotional to the point of like tears. And when I'm at that point, anybody can get it. Tears and all. So I literally shifted because I know I was in the right. I'm trusting myself, and I'm trying to regulate my emotions, and I chose to respond from my soul. I knew this lady didn't have anything to do with my reality and what I had just experienced. She doesn't know what transpired. She saw someone, she called them, that was it. Now, proper protocol, I would challenge that because you should at least have some sort of standard operating procedure. But I digress. Especially at the location I was at, I didn't expect much. However, what it did do, which is my fourth and final point, soul response versus ego response, is essentially it led me to a different outcome because not only was I ready to pop off, she looked like she was going to pop off too. And I know there was going to be one woman standing, and that was going to be me. It's not funny, but it's funny because she had to check herself before she wrecked herself. I looked her dead in her eye, and I'm like, girl. So, okay, in me choosing to respond from my soul, which even at the time I didn't realize that that's what I was doing, it led to a different outcome. It led to her checking herself, acknowledging where she went wrong by not seeking me out, and giving her the opportunity to correct it. And I'm glad that that happened because I watched a video a couple of weeks ago where this gentleman explained how, you know, everybody is in their own reality. And that clicked for me and stayed with me because it is so true. Sometimes, you know how they say common sense isn't so common. Like, whether you're behind a wheel or you're watching someone do something dumb, and it's like, is it not? Is the math not mathing? Is like, is it me? I'm like, are y'all dumb? Like Remy Ma would say, are you dumb? I swear. I think people are dumb. But no, people aren't dumb. They do dumb things. It's because we're all stuck in our own like reality. It's so fucking weird. Damn, I'm not supposed to be cursing. It's so weird, y'all. And it's like once that sets in, once you realize people really are in their own reality. And what I mean by that is whatever's happening in there in their reality, it makes sense to them. Even though it's stupid. Even though it's wrong. It really makes sense. It blows my mind. I'm like, are we really doing this? Even on the road. I saw a car today. You're supposed to be heading straight, but you're literally blocking traffic, causing an accident because you want to make a left turn. How, Sway? And the cars are just going to make their left turn because they're in their proper lane. But because you didn't want to stop to take the time and realize and acknowledge, okay, damn, I missed my light. Let me go forward. Let me find a left lane where I can make a U turn safely. Like, where y'all at? Anyway, anyway, okay. So, do you have a moment or an opportunity where you wanted to react from your ego, but you allowed your soul to respond? Please share that with me in the comments. Okay? Share with me in the comments how you chose peace. I'll share with you another experience that I had earlier this week. My ex asked if we should get back together. Take a wild guess what I told that man. And I was listening to a podcast this morning, and it gave me so much clarity about that whole situation because he led with, well, I wanted to ask God. I wanted to ask God. I prayed, and God told me. And so, and that's what he said. The podcast that I was listening to was sharing their thoughts and opinions on a recent, social matter that happened over the weekend that everybody's been talking about. If you've ever watched the Dear Future, watch or listen to the Dear Future Wifey podcast, then you know what I'm referencing and talking about. And this podcaster gave her opinion, and one thing that struck me, and I will always keep it, because with the Dear Future Wifey podcast, it is essentially a podcast where obviously he has the host has guests on there, but his whole brand is about finding a wife. Well, he recently got married, and so she kind of dissected how his stories and how he got to his marriage this past weekend. And one of the things that he said was, God said that this woman that he married this past Saturday is his wife. And so the podcaster that was giving their opinion made reference to everyone that said that they're a part of the church, spiritual, knows God. Mike, and she goes, and I quote, they're not really reading their Bible. And I was like, huh? What you mean, girl? And she's like, you're not reading your Bible, and how, in her opinion, his marriage is a sham. Because in the Bible, in the book of Genesis specifically, it says, dang, I don't want to misquote. Hold on, y'all. Let me let me pull up the Bible. Let me pull up the Bible. Um, Oh my God. Let me pull it up. How do we get here? Okay. I guess the version I have, yeah, I guess the version I have, but essentially in the book of Genesis, it says, in the beginning, the word was with God and the word was of God. And so the opinion, her take on it was, you're not really in the Bible simply because if God said he's going to do something, that's it. If God says, let there be light, then there is light. God says, let there be darkness, there's darkness. We have night and we have day. We have day, we have night. That hasn't changed since God created the universe, right? And so if you're in your word, you know when God says, he says it, he even told Moses, you're not going to go into the promised land because you didn't do what I told you to do, right? And so who was it? Joshua had to take, the people into the promised land. Moses couldn't go. And I think the same thing happened to, listen, I'm not gonna be quoting the Bible because I'm that's not my ministry. However, her whole point was when God says something, decrees and declares it, it comes to pass, and it doesn't ever change. So her whole qualm about this gentleman making this lady his now wife is a total sham because he said that about another woman. So is it God? So all in all, um, I'm rambling. um, I just wanted to, come and share my experience with you through my 60-day manifestation cleanse and how um, I've noticed because of the cleanse and me clearing out what is no longer serving me in the season that I'm currently in and what I'm about to embark upon or embarking upon, it's revealed a lot of patterns. And I had to ask myself, am I operating from an ego standpoint or a soul one? And I can't allow my ego to continue to dictate my actions. Like, your girl ain't got a lot of time. Like, the clock is ticking, right? And so we're either gonna keep repeating the same insanity loop, or we're gonna get off that ride and create a whole new life for us. And the latter option is where I reside. I've done enough Delulu stuff from the ego. The ego, it served me, it protected me, but now I got it. I got it. I got it. I got it. If this live helped you, let me know below, and also, definitely take the moment to share when your ego wanted to react but you chose peace instead, okay, in the comment section below. All right, loves, that's it for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe so we can keep growing together, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.